Hello and welcome to today's tutorial, which is for a fiddle quilt, and we are working in association with
Fiddle Fingers Quilts.
Right, so you can use loads of things you've got at home. So the most important bits are your front and your back. So we've got two pieces of material measuring
12 inches
12
by
inches.
12 inches?
Yep, so completely square. And then you need wadding as well, which is also
The same size as the fabric.
the same size of the fabric. And then basically we've been hunting
Around the shop.
for different things. So here Phoebe's cut two cats out on the fabric.
Yeah.
Why are we using cats?
Because it gives them something to talk about with different people that come to visit them.
Ah, right, okay. So we've got pom-poms as well.
So they can like fiddle with them
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
We've got lace here that just gives a bit of a different texture. My favourite, the rick-rack.
And it's my favourite colour.
Yeah. So it's quite bright as well, so that's good.
That's the main thing to keep in mind.
Yes.
Keep it quite bright.
We've got a zip so that they can use that. That's good for texture as well. We've got a felt.
Fringe.
Yeah, that we've just cut out of felt, which I'll show you how to do in a moment. And then Phoebe's gone with
We've got some buttons. So we've got like 2 red buttons. We've got some star buttons, and we've got a balloon and a white, like a big white button.
yeah, so lots of different textures going on there. So first of all, choose which piece of fabric that you're going to have as your main fabric on the front. We've chosen that one because we're putting the cats on.
And we thought it went nice with the cats as well.
Right, so this is where, let's bring it forward a little bit so you can see. This is where we start to decide where we're going to put things on. But I will show you first of all how we made the fringe
Yeah.
felt. So if you've got a bit of felt, just cut a little bit off. Try and make it a little bit straighter than I did. And then all you're going to do is cut right into it.
But make sure you leave a gap so you can sew it onto
Yeah.
the quilt.
So if I hold this up, you can see that I haven't gone all the way to the top, so we can sew straight along there to attach it. So Phoebe's going to lay out the design that she wants
Okay.
on here.
So I'm going to put fringe at the top corner so they can just play with that. And then I'm going to use the lace as like a decoration. So it's more in, so they can rub their fingers on this if they want to. And then we're going to start placing the big elements, and then we'll move on to the smaller elements. So I'm going to place the cats somewhere that they're visible, but you can also put them underneath things so for them to like discover when you like lift this up or unzip anything. Then buttons, I would just scatter them around anywhere, so they can be anywhere you want them to be. And then rick-rack, I'm going to start putting them on, like around the cats or something like that. And then pom-poms, I'm going to put them through like here, but try and make sure nothing's like colliding anywhere, because if it starts to like collide then it's just going to get too busy. And then I'm going to put the zip on, which I'm going to move this piece of rick-rack actually and put that underneath like that. And then the zip can go there. I'm just going to move that.
That's the hardest bit, working out.
Yeah, working out where everything goes.
Because you could put, say, with the rick-rack, or I'm going to move a little bit now.
That's fine.
You could lay it over the corners like that.
So it looks more included.
Yeah, so that people could, you could just sew the edges down so people can put their fingers under it like that and feel
twizzle it
and
and
twizzle
stuff
it.
like.
Yeah, so you could do that with the lace or the pom-poms, and I'll just move
And
that.
the pom-poms are really good for them as well, because then they can just flick them if they want to and stuff like that. It's okay if you have stuff coming off, because you can always trim it off as well. So
Yeah, so best thing to do is, because you're going to have to take it all the way back off,
Yeah, just to
sew
make
it
sure.
on. And you could change your mind at any point. So if you take a photo of it, I suppose.
Yeah,
you can
a
remember
good way is to take a photo, and if you change your mind, you can always rearrange it. Make sure you like the design.
Right. So let's go and start sewing it on. Right, so first of all, Phoebe's going to sew the felt on with the lace, and we've also got the fabric on top of the wadding, if you can see it there. So we've lined the wadding up with the fabric and ready to sew this on. So Phoebe's going to use a straight stitch, and you've got to remember to reverse stitch when you start and when you finish as well, to make it nice and secure. So Phoebe's just going to sew that on. Right, so next we're going to tackle the zip. So you could sew it on all the way down the long way, but we've made the decision to sew it on just at that end and that end, so that this bit is free, so people can put their hands under it as well as undo the zip. So we're going to sew that bit on first. Again, make sure you reverse.
Make sure you do reverse stitch.
Yes, and do not sew over the metal part of the zip, otherwise
it won't open.
it won't open and your needle will break, so it's not good. That's it.
I'm going to reverse it all
That's
the way
it.
back, 'cause that's great.
Yeah, just make it extra secure.
Because we don't want the people tearing it off.
Exactly.
And we'll do it off the other side. Also, when you're sewing this on, make sure the zip is a little bit open,
Yes.
so you
just-
don't get it caught.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Is that right? That's not right.
That's it. A bit fiddly at that end, aren't they?
I hope that's right.
Yeah, that looks
Oh,
good.
I'm on reverse already.
That's it. Perfect. So just make sure you trim your loose threads off.
And you've got a working.
And you've got a working zip. Yeah.
So what we've done now is we've got the pom-pom trim pinned on as well to stop it moving while sewing. And we're going to sew just along the top edge where you've pinned.
You just have to make sure you don't sew over the pom-poms at the same time as you're sewing it on.
The machine won't
The
like that.
machine definitely won't like it.
One thing you could do when you're sewing the pom-poms on is to maybe pull them out of the way so the machine doesn't capture them.
There, attached.
Ready to...
All attached.
So next we're going to sew on the cats. Now we've pinned these on so it's easier to sew, and we're using a zigzag stitch, but you could also use a straight stitch. That's because it's to cover the raw edges of it, and you need to make sure your pedal is half on and half off the cap and the fabric.
So you press the foot, should be in that position all the time. Right, so when you've got to a corner or a curve that you can't get round, put your needle down, press the foot up, and then pop it down where you need it and carry on. Do a reverse on the zigzag stitch as well, just to lock it in place. Take the pin out of that one now. Nearly there. That's the cat's
Sewn on.
sewn on, and I'm stuck in a pom-pom. There we go.
It's looking like a fidget quilt already.
It is. Right, so next is time for a bit of hand sewing. So we're going to sew the buttons on. So Phoebe's going to sew the big button on first of all.
Make sure you've also got a knot at the end of your thread because you don't want it coming loose.
Yes. So when we sew the buttons on for this project, we've got to make sure they're really secure because we don't want them popping off because it could be quite dangerous if somebody puts one in the mouth. So
we don't want them swallowing it either.
No. So it's up to you how many times you sew through the holes. Just make sure it's super secure.
Because it could pop off at any time, and we don't want that for the people who are using it.
Yeah. That's an absolutely huge button.
I know. That's like, it's huge, but I guess it's also good for them to fidget with.
Exactly.
I'm going to do 2 times on this button just to make sure it's extra secure.
Yeah. So we'll go and sew the other buttons on, and then we'll show you how to put the rest of it together.
And the rickrack on.
Yeah.
So now we've pinned the back on, and we have marked out a gap where we are going to leave a hole so we can turn the whole thing inside out. We've also made sure the edges of rickrack are outside like this, so we make sure we catch them while sewing round.
And we've also, when we've pinned the back on, we've pinned the fabric so it's right side to right side.
So you shouldn't see any of the bright colours. You
No.
should only see like dull colours.
So I've made a mark on the fabric where to leave a gap. So I'm going to start there and sew all the way round and finish at the other side of the gap. I'm on zigzag stitch, so I'm going to move it back to straight.
Yeah, make sure you've got it on straight stitch because you don't want it on zigzag. Also, when you come to a corner, make sure you stick your needle into the fabric and lift your foot up and turn it to the way you want it. Also, make sure you stop when you come to the place where you've marked. Make sure you stop there so you can actually turn it inside out.
It's been so many times when we've forgotten to leave the
Yeah,
gap.
so many. Especially me. I remember that one time I was doing lolly and I forgot to leave a gap and I got so frustrated.
And then reverse when you get to where you need to leave a gap.
So now we're going to cut the corners just to make sure we get sharp corners when we turn it inside out.
So we're cutting diagonal, but we'll make sure we're not getting it on cutting any of the stitches.
Otherwise it will come apart,
Yeah.
and we don't want that. Also, while you're here, I think you could also like trim off the rick-rack if you wanted to. You don't have to if you don't want to, because it'll be inside the fidget quilt anyways, but you can if you want.
And now it's time to turn it round the right way.
And hope it works. So now we've pushed all of it out of the hole that we had made, and we've also pushed out all the corners. It might be useful to use a pen or a pencil, and then now we're gonna close up the hole. So we're gonna fold it in, and then we're gonna pin that. Hopefully I can get it right. And then we're going to move on to top stitching.
So what we're going to do is to top stitch all round the outside of the square. So you want your stitching quite close to the edge, because that's how you're going to close your gap up when you get round here. So if you're sort of sewing too far in, you're not going to manage to stitch that up. So you need nice straight sewing on this, because you're going to see your sew lines. Once you get to the corner, put your needle down in your fabric, you press the foot up and spin the fabric round to your next part of sewing.